Anybody here ever drink moonshine?
I made mine.
I'm gonna sit.
On this episode of Moonshiners American Spirit,
If we can recreate what the first sour mash whiskey tastes like, don't you
the Tickles scour the South in search of the backwoods secret that changed American whiskey forever.
This is handed down from generation.
But who discovered sour mash hundreds of years ago?
Started in 1835.
Wow.
And how that first whiskey tasted, a mystery.
It brings up the question of who wrote the document.
This is really where sour mash realized.
Yes, sir.
This is a new ball game here.
There will be a pop quiz at the end of this.
Holy cow, what a performance.
That's what the very first sour mash whiskey tasted like. I don't know why anybody would ever change its name. Tim, you dragged me all the way out here to go to a liquor store.
What do you say?
I mean, you got me, Tim. I mean, what?
Sour mash.
Well,
Sour mash. Sour mash whiskey.
well, you know, I had no idea there was this many sour mashes. You know, I do love sour mash whiskey.
Me
though.
too. I like sour mash too. Where do you think it comes from?
All I know is it comes from a box.
If it's so important that they put it on, look, original sour mash on here, then I need to track down that recipe. If we can recreate what the first sour mash was too,
But how are you going to recreate the very first sour mash whiskey? You got a time machine or something?
I did some research and I found out that Dr. James Crow whiskey back in 1800s, and they even put it on this label, sour mash Old Crow whiskey.
First produced in 18 months, the best-selling whiskey in America, and a favorite of President Ulysses S. Grant and writer Mark Twain. It was first made by a Scottish-born chemist and physician. Crow developed a recipe for using sour mash to produce a more consistent whisk of alcohol. Because he was the first to use sour mash at an industrial scale, he's often credited with inventing the Crow got the secret he used to change American whiskey remains clouded in mystery.
You know, Kentucky.
Well, Old Crow is right here in Frankfort, Kentucky. I contacted this guy, Dave. He's at Glens Creek Distilling Company. The Old Crow Distillery was.
Okay, that's where it was originally made at.
made at. So we're going to go back to this Glen Creek Distillery. You know, what does he know about this sour mash recipe? Dave's Distillery, at the original Crow Distillery. I mean, this is a big deal that we can actually visit this place where large-scale whiskey production took off in America.
Look, either going to welcome us or shoot us, won't it? How's it going?
Hey, morning. Glad you made it here.
So, you know, Dave, we talked on the phone. Yes, that original sour mash that like Mr. Crow was doing back in the day.
Well, this is it.
The old
We're
original.
showing you around.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We're going to get in this and check it out, isn't it? I can tell this is a very old place. And if we're ever going to get to the roots of this original, a place that's got history.
Started in 1835. If you look right up through there, that's where the still diameter of 48 feet tall.
Wow.
So it was big.
Yeah, for back in that day, that was a great big still.
Back then, you had cabins, little small one-room buildings, and this place was huge back then in James Crow's period of time.
Guys, I'm going to take you into the granary here. This
This is really, in essence, the place where sour mash came out of the woods and was really industrialized.
Yes, 2,000 years of distilling, doing it on a scale like you're doing or like we're doing up at the distillery. Now, they use about 260,000 pounds of grain a day.
You can see how sour mash was so big.
These steam boilers, they burn 100 tons of coal a day here.
Even today,
This is the spring. So this is where the water to make the sour mash came from.
looks like good water now.
There that it's filtering through.
You know, we're looking at a part of history here. I mean, this is a landmark in the business.
Let's go see the fermenters.
Yeah. I want to see.
You know, this is pretty neat. And then we get to go where the fermenters was at. Well, now we get in somewhere. We're getting in here because I know yeast is important. And Old Crow, they are real important in this whole story of sour mash whiskey.
Well, guys, this is where yeast, you know, when it dies, it makes a spore, and those spores go in the air, and they float all around the planet. And so some of the original Old Crow yeast from the Old Crow fermenters.
So basically, you maybe took a swab or something?
No.
Yeast started growing,
Take
or?
mash, and we put in buckets, and we set the bucket down inside the fermenter,
And attract
And then
and
let
then they just fall in
okay.
there.
And you got it working.
We did. You want to go see how
Yeah.
we made
From this crow.
Yeah.
Dave finding this yeast and actually harvesting this yeast from the Crow Distillery. I mean, this is incredible. And on track.
I'm ready to go. Which place is there in the distillery at?
How do we get back over there?
This way? Yeah, let's go.
Now we're getting into a distillery.
It starts right here in the cooker. It's got water in it. We heat the water up, and then we've added the grain back. It's the liquid in there that we reserve from the still after it's finished.
Setback coming in.
Sour mash whiskey is made by preserving the leftover mash or setback of the previous run, water and yeast to begin a new fermentation. The pH level of setback is low, making it acidic or sour. This breaks down, which helps keep out unwanted bacteria while creating a more favorable environment for yeast to consume more sugar and produce to sour mash. The taste of whiskey varied from batch to batch, but its discovery helped distillers produce consistent tasting whiskey. Drinkers could rely on their favorite brands.
How much is setback you using?
Looking at Crow's recipe, about 10%.
For creating the sour mash whiskey. But I think this could go way farther back than Dr. Crow. I really think the Moonshiners started this process before the large-scale thing. Now, David, we came here because this is Old Crow Distillery.
Yes.
And because James Crow was credited for sour mash process.
Yes. Of people who were doing a sour mash process before Dr. Crow. A woman named Catherine, sour mash type recipe before Dr. Crow. So you might need to check that out.
You know, the fact that there's another person linked to sour mash whiskey is to me.
Before you guys go, I got something for you.
What you got?
Setback you're going to need.
Setback?
Oh,
Yeah,
That's
that's
what I'm
right.
talking about.
Yeah.
Well, let's go get it, Chick.
Yeah.
Setback that y'all can use
All
to
right.
recreate sour mash.
Outstanding.
I like that'll work right there.
You know, getting this original setback from Dave by you that he got from the Crow Distillery, I mean, this is big time right here. We one step closer to making that sour mash now. This is going to be a pretty easy, task, finding out about the sour mash and whiskey. Me and Tickle, we got to follow up on the Captain Carpenter lead that we got from Dave. But 1800 period correct pot still, so when I get back from Kentucky, I can run this sour mash whiskey.
All right, let's go. We'll have it right here. See what we can do.
Get him on.
Arnold, sign or not. Now, you rolled in here. That means you got something on your mind.
Well, Tim called me. He said they're trying to learn the history of the first sour mash, tasked me and you with the responsibility of building a still for him. Tim called. He wants a very basic still from the 1800s period. It ain't got to really be much more than just a copper pot and a condenser. Because he wants to keep it period correct. So,
Period correct.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
so that means there's going to be some crimping and rivets.
this ain't just something we can roll. Here we go. But in order for us to make this as period correct as possible, we're not going to be able to weld this thing up. We're trying to build this cake first.
Okay.
And then
All
our
right, now.
templates right here. In order to do this without welding, we're going to try building this with interlocking panels.
So we'll just, bang, bang, bang 7 more times.
So this is going to be a challenge because there's points and seams and all these areas where you can lose vapor.
All right, let's do this.
It's dangerous. You can lose your mash for one, or you can blow this thing up.
All right, go ahead.
Dang, you could construct the next space shuttle.
Maybe.
As we push it in on it ain't going.
No, it ain't.
No wonder back then, we're going back to the 1790s,
That's
1800s,
right.
early
Yes,
1800s.
Mm-hmm.
And your hand was your best friend.
Yes, it was.
All our panels in place. Just like a goddamn knight's uniform, man. I could be the first knight of the royalty. We're thinking to fold this thing around. All right. I was always told that if I hold a hammer that close up on the handle, that I ain't doing nothing. We okay?
No, we're not.
I called over to the Historical Society, and there's a lady named Dina over there. She knew about the carpenter, documented there, and even got the recipe that we can come and look at, and then we can learn more about the process. Me and Tickle made, we got some information about Dr. Crow, but it looks like someone else made it before him, and we're following Dave's lead about Captain Carpenter. Yeah, we spoke on the phone. Let's see what's in that box.
All right.
Hope they got a quart jar in there so we know what it tastes like.
Before we get into the recipe, let me tell you, they're originally from Virginia. Catherine Carpenter came to Kentucky in 1780 with her husband.
Okay.
Because she had a lot of land on this land, she had a lot of excess corn. She could take a little bit of the corn and make whiskey.
Anytime you got plenty of corn, that's the best is by making alcohol out of it.
This is the earliest document related to the process that we have.
All right, Chickle.
On this side, we got the sour mash recipe.
A recipe for distilling sour mash. So I'm trying to decipher this. So put in the mash tub, hot
Slop. That's the
hot
back
slot.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Then put in 1 bushel cornmeal gram. Step by step. I was like, wow, this is a new ball game here. This is a written document about sour mash that was made 200 years ago.
Kind of really interesting thing about this document is really the mystery that surrounds it. All right. In other documents, right. So it brings up the question of who wrote the document. And she couldn't write. Was it really Catherine's? Was it her recipe? So we actually had a master distiller come over, and he confirmed that it is a recipe that will make alcohol.
It says sour mash right at the top.
Yep.
Get a little picture of it here, Chickle, right there. Bam. We got another wrinkle in this. Catherine didn't really write it. So is this really the first sour mash recipe? We got to go and find out a little bit more details about this recipe.
If we beat that piece right there, just seat it.
Yeah, but it's rocking. That's not what it's hanging up in here somewhere.
We're building a cake for our sour mash steel out of 8 interlocking panels to make it as period correct as possible. Unfortunately, one of the seams isn't lining up. And for us, that's a big no-no because
This is a problem right here.
Oh, wait a second. How about we do that?
I feel like
What I've done is I've alleviated the pressure.
well, alleviate this way.
There.
See it rocking? It's
I know, but it's in there. It looks like it's together to me, my buddy. We just made cap, but a cap to the cap.
yes.
I mean, you did outstanding work, man. I'm glad I was here to supervise.
Yeah. Right.
We can't just go off of what we got at Glenn's Creek at the Old Crow. We read at the Historical Society. So I really think we need to get over to Woodford Reserve. We need to talk to Chris Morris.
We're on our way over to meet with Master Distiller. I understand that Chris was over the Historical Society in Kentucky, and he was researching also the process about James Crow, scientific in making his sour mash. If we can get Catherine's process, maybe we can put these together.
All right. Process.
We got to go right over there. Man, I think that's the guy right there, maybe. Chris!
Hey, Tim and Tickle.
Must be.
Good to have you all here today.
We went by the Historical Society, and we was investigating, Catherine's process. You're doing something with it, too.
We sure are. We're using exactly the same processes, the same concepts that was used back in her time.
This place is massive. It is huge. But, they're using the same process as Catherine was using back in the 1800s, even though they supersized it. On here where we're going to learn something about how they made this sour mash.
Okay, this is where we got our setup out here by the creek.
Okay, by the creek, Tickle. Looks like you got some yellow corn there.
Yeah, we got some ground up corn. This is a 50-gallon barrel back that's come off the bottom of our pot still.
So a little bit left over from the previous run.
Exactly. This is 50%, and that's what James Christopher Crowe figures out. Catherine's recipe was very inefficient, so that means you're going to have more fresh grain, more fresh water.
So he's adding new ingredients into it,
Yes.
giving it more starch, and giving it more, a body
Right.
to create the next batch. Clear? Or was she aging it, putting it in a barrel and aging it like you do today?
By this time period, Kentucky Sour Mash whiskey is being described as
Red
whiskey, so we know it's in wood. So we've got the exact measurements for her recipe, adding corn.
You gotta do it like you're feeding the chickens. That's how they done it back in the day. Hey, you won't get no dough.
So, of course, in the old days, look at that beautiful color. It would have been purple or blue.
Yeah, different corn.
Next, because it's cooled off, raise the temperature of the next ingredient, flavor ingredient, ground up rye, 1/8 of a bushel. Again, Catherine would have had rye growing on her farm.
Some of the extra corn to make some liquor, make a little bit of extra money. So a process would have been very simple. But, not like Crow. He was a scientist.
Our yeast is alive in here. So
Okay.
let's go ahead and put in
All
Well, here we go. Most there we go. Catherine was the first founder of the Sour Mash whiskey.
Absolutely not. Now, that was a common recipe, handed down from farm. It just so happened that her process was written down.
She probably learned some of her techniques from the Moonshiners. I mean, I think that's the way I would do it if I had to do it today. So, you know, Chris, and me and Tickle, we got everything we need. We got our setback. We got our process. You got running back here.
Well, let's go to the original spring. It's the reason our distillery is here in the first place. In the very water we still make.
You gonna get wet? I'm gonna get the jugs.
I knew you had something.
All right, let's go. We following you. How better can you get? Limestone water's limestone, but we're getting it from a historical site from the spring that was used in 200 years ago that's still running.
Okay.
All right, Tickle, you carrying both of them? I got one, right?
I got this.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah,
let's head on
One
out.
thing about it is uphill from here. Tell you what it did, Tickle. We got water, but we don't have the corn. We need heirloom corn from this 1800 period. Okay. They have a research development farm. This guy Self, he's a director, and he's like, yeah, I got some corn. You want to come by and look? And he'll let us have it. There we go.
G'day, guys. Found him.
We found him?
Yeah, welcome
Yeah.
to the University of Kentucky.
Good day, huh?
G'day.
Yeah. You don't hear that around Kentucky too much.
You got me. I'm from...
Makes good sense now.
That's a long ride. So, Seth, let me tell you what we're looking for. We're in Kentucky, and we're trying to recreate the first sour mash whiskey recipe in corn. So we're looking for something that was grown like in the 1800s.
Well, you came to the right place. We have an extensive... So we can look back to 1905 or 1890 and look what was being recommended to farmers in the area at that time.
So, Seth,
Glad to do it. What you're looking at across the way here is a...
you know, back in the day, I mean, corn was handed down. And when you grew a crop of corn, you saved some for seed.
Alrighty.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's an heirloom corn that has a particular appearance. In this case, it's a white variety.
but, you know, today they call it heirloom corn. Got replaced. You know, new generations, new varieties came in, produced higher sugars and higher content.
Now we get 220, about 20 bushels an acre.
Now, you grew a whole lot and you didn't get nothing back.
Imagine we had to grow corn on 10 times the amount of land to get the same amount we get. We'd have no forests left. We'd be planting corn all over the place.
I mean, how many varieties of heirloom corn is it?
There's said to be as many as 1,200 different varieties.
I mean, today, we only use a few types of corn to make our whiskey. I mean, that's a whole lot less than 1,200.
This is a pretty small ear of corn, as you can date that back to an Indian corn, which is a much older variety.
You know, some of those flavors could have been lost over the years, so this is why I'm so excited to get the original sour mash whiskey flavor. That's a little small ears, eh?
These are little small ears. So look at that comparison there. It's really orange, smaller kernels.
What's the name of this?
That is actually and
Thomas
Thomas Jefferson's farm.
Virginia.
wow.
Dated back
Virginia.
to about 1800.
I mean, Self, I think if we could just get a combination, can you spare something like that? Or you got some available? Or?
Yeah, I think we can help you out. Let's go up to the field lab and
Okay.
take a look at what we have up there.
Get us some corn, make us some liquor.
I think the glass gem and the Monticello corn is the way to go because it's a period correct during this time. And then we have all the ingredients to make the original sour mash whiskey. Man, look at that, Jacob. Huh?
Hang on. I used to barter for corn.
Okay.
But University of Kentucky, we're educating the next generation of distillers.
Okay.
And it would be incredible for them. Moonshine here.
Okay.
You're looking at you, Tickle.
Well,
In exchange for this fine grain from 200.
Tucker, you know what I said? Anything.
all right, now, they want important grades. This is an 18 mash whiskey. We've got the seams lined up finally. We got the rivets around this beautiful baby. And now we got the cap on. Yeah, Art.
That's what I'm saying. Okay. All right, now we need to get on with the snoot. We need a piece of copper 3 foot long.
You know, one detail is the cap. He wants this cap to have over a 3-foot arm on it.
I think we're just gonna have to work it by hand like that. Just pull on it a little bit.
Too much strength into it. I might fold it in half. That's unheard of in today's society. We don't use nothing like that.
All right.
These people didn't have the technology we have today where we can sit on a stand and throw propane to it and have direct heat. I thought somebody playing bands, old tuba flute fire. So if you had a short arm to your condenser, well, that water's never going to cool down because it's going to be constantly heated up by that fire.
Oh, look at that. Look at that, Howard. Let's go ahead and draw a circle on our cap, and you can cut that out.
So these people thought outside the box. Heat, the better off I'll be able to produce a good alcohol. And we're doing just that. Holy cow, what an arm on a steel. Wow.
Welcome to the University of Kentucky. And here we're going to be talking a lot about the art of moonshine. So to introduce ourselves today, I'm really excited today to introduce none other. We brought in a master moonshiner, none other than.
As he told you, I am Tickle, and, well, I'm a moonshiner. Today, me and Tim are at the University of Kentucky, meeting with a group of students as a favor in exchange for the heirloom corn we got from Seth at the research farm. Has anybody here ever drink moonshine? Yeah?
I made mine.
You made yours?
Yeah,
All right, well,
I
you
made
don't
mine.
count. All right? I'm going to set you in the corner if you don't behave, all right?
You know, I didn't really think that you took them. Tell them about when the law was chasing.
Well, look, Tim, if you'll sit there quietly, I'll answer your questions and you might learn something. I believe I got one that's going to pass because he don't know how to close his mouth.
Okay.
All right, has anybody else got any questions? Yes, sir.
Where are your fermenters?
Submarine pot's right here. This is our fermenter. I have been moonshining so long that I forgot when I even started.
Froman, what's your favorite water?
And I'm going to draw on all these years of experience, and I'm going to pass those right on to every one of these students, because there will be a pop quiz at the end of this.
The longest damn cap and arm. See this thing come together. It is a work of art. We got the cap. All we've got left is the worm and condenser.
Worm and condenser, yeah.
This prettiest steel I've ever seen in my life. Tim's gonna be super stoked. Now,
Yeah.
I think it's time for beer 30, old buddy.
Yeah, I agree.
Tickle and I, we collected all that ingredients to make a home mash.
That looks good.
That's caught for them. So we can go back in time and recreate this first sour mash whiskey. You know, I mean, Tickle, I really think this is Zach in 1800s. I'm trying to be as traditional as I can from the type of steel they was using in producing this alcohol. A traditional way that Catherine Carpenter would have produced this sour mash whiskey and the distillers before her. A perfect copper steel just like this, very simple. In a wooden barrel. You know, she was following moonshiners. And you know what? She was making this long time before Dr. Crow. I mean, hundreds, we got to make it just like we was in 1800. I mean, this is it right here.
I like the way they did the cape right here.
And they put those rivets. They put rivets on strip.
You know, the still looks period correct.
All we got to do is mash in.
I can't wait to taste this stuff. You know, Tim, that's always my favorite part.
Let's get over here next to this creek. Me and Tickle, we headed down to the creek to mash in just like the old moonshiners would. I'm really...
Sit back down, boy. I tell you, that's just heavy.
That's heavier than the water.
A whole lot heavier than the water.
Yeah, it's got more in it. And I mean, hopefully, this whiskey turns out good. Creek Distillery and get a stamp of approval. Do your thing. You know, the first step's in mashing it. We got to use that Kentucky limestone. The heirloom corn that we got, I want to mix that in there. It didn't really look like that when we ground
On the corn's just on the outside.
Yeah, I know.
Now you can see everything that was inside.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. Damn, I'll put a little bit of that in there. But I also want to add some rye. I think the rye needs to put a little bit of spice into it. You know, just think about any other guys before her, they was probably just getting whatever they could and put it in there. And I mean, that's the moonshiner's way. You know, on Monday you may get corn, and on Tuesday you use a little bit of rye. That actually gives you that crisp flavor when that whiskey comes out of that still.
What do you need next? Is setback?
Well, you got to get that setback in there, you know. I decided to go with Catherine's 50% more setback, more flavor on it. That's the flavor from the other previous run that you're adding to it. So let's go ahead and put that in there.
You just want to put all this in there,
let's do 50%. Set. Was following the recipe that had been generations before her, so they would more concentrate on what it tastes like. Think about it, that's like flavor. That's a particularly, you know, when Crow was more concentration on the yield than it was the flavor.
Yeah. It's more about how much product whiskey.
I think we'll just leave this open.
I'm sure that's what Catherine Carpenter did.
Sure.
Well, ain't nothing to it nowadays. Without good water, you're not going to make good moonshine. We get our waters from whatever we can find out in the woods. The only thing draw on my experience. You're going to want to make sure there ain't no cow pastures upstream. They not only drink it, they crap in it. Don't nobody want experience? That's a teacher that you can't buy. I hope that I have really enlightened y'all to some information y'all can put in your curriculum. I think I'm teaching this class to the distilling program instead of Tim, because let's face it, who couldn't stand to look at this face all day long? What do you think there? Let's see what we got. Oh, yeah.
Hey, we come back in a few days, we'll look at the mash, it tastes... Yeah, we done went down low, man. That's good. You get some water? Fill the condenser up here?
Yeah,
and I'm gonna stop.
I reckon this is how Catherine Carpenter did it, too.
We got to get the thing sealed up.
Boy, it's gonna take a...
Dip the mash into the steel. We're gonna fire this thing up. We're gonna recreate. Let's get some steam, boy. Tickle, gotta stir it up some, man. It's getting hot over here.
She's steaming good, yeah.
Yeah.
About that time.
That's what I'm talking about. This like puts us back in the woods.
It blows that thing off, Tim. We might ought to take off running.
Yeah, that comes down. It's been a long time since, man, you've been out in the woods doing this.
Just like Catherine Carpenter would have done it, but it's also just like we would have done it back in the day.
200 something.
Did it the same way.
Same way. You know, make it pretty thick.
Yeah, we do that.
I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna push it in a little bit deeper there.
All right.
8 panels.
8 panels on there, yeah.
What if we call that an 8-panel copper steel?
I'm gonna call it money is what I'm gonna call it.
Money? Tickle, feel that right there. Feel the heat come in right there?
Oh,
that's
yeah.
alcohol.
Yeah, it's alcohol right there. It's
coming
getting hot.
Yeah.
It's getting hot. Well, it's still Howard built looks good.
It's holding tight.
It is.
Yeah.
I ain't seeing no leaks
I like
in
it. I like it. It's sealed up good.
Ooh, she's hot. She's hot.
I'll be coming out, Tickle.
Yeah, it's feeling that cool up
There you
now.
go. There you go.
Look at yonder.
Look at that. Yeah. It's probably about, what, 80 proof maybe?
About 80
Something
proof,
like that.
something like that, yeah. I reckon that's what they'd be running back in Catherine Carpenter's day, wasn't it?
Think so.
Yeah. Ooh.
Let's see what it tastes like.
Yeah. Heirloom corn, right? What does it taste like, though?
Good. It's almost like sweet corn. Look. We was tasting this sour mash whiskey, and you know, right off, I'm picking up some of the setback from the previous run that we got. I'm picking up some of that rye that's coming right up front. You know what, Tickle? I sure am glad that we went with the 50% of setback in there, because Kathleen Carpenter, when she... And I think if we don't want to put like 10% like James Crow did, we wouldn't have the
Yield out of it.
But you wouldn't have that
Wouldn't
flavor.
have the quality of it. If that's what the very first sour mash, why anybody would ever change the thing.
Now that we finish this run, and I got this sour mash whiskey, there's one last thing I like to do. I need to take this sour mash whiskey that we made, and I want to put it in a wood container, because I want to store it just like they did in the 1800s. They was not, you carry this on a wagon, it get broke. What you got there? So I have it like a small experimental barrel.
Okay.
And it's just enough. And I want to get that little color tint to it, but I don't want to change the flavor. The barrel would hold both of those jars. That's all right.
Well, that's all right.
That's all we got right now. Now that we got the sour mash whiskey in the barrel, I just want to give it a few days, see the effects of it. Does it change the color? Trust me. Try to open this. All right, let's see if this barrel here is giving our sour mash whiskey any color.
Yeah, it's just gonna get a little from the oak, huh?
Let's see what.
I'm seeing a little bit of color there.
There's a little bit of color. When they stored it in them wooden casks and they got to where it needed to be, it had a little bit of color to it. We got the color that we're looking for. I think we have just matched all of it being transported through the woods back in the 1800s. I mean, this thing looks perfect. We're going to take it back to David, Glenn's Creek Distillery, and let him try it. Hey, David.
Yeah, we've been busy.
We brought you something.
I see that.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Well, that's the big reason we back. Give us your opinion of it. Is this something that they made back in the 1800s?
Smells good.
Yeah.
Ain't no char barrel, nothing like that. Well, I hope he likes it.
I get a nice wave of sweet on the front of that one, and all the vanillas and caramels and stuff on the back, just like a sour mash should be.
Because we made something really special. and so creative that no one else has ever tasted before.
Well, I think you got it, and I sure want to keep this.
Yeah, you can have it. We can make the first sour mash whiskey, and connect it with the distillers and the distillers of the past.
We can be lining up.
All right.
Well, guys, I
Take care.
appreciate it. See you now.
I mean, for me and Tickle to be able to recreate this just like the Moonshiners did back in the day, I mean, this is very special.
Man.
Yeah, well, it looked like we got some sour mash whiskey to make.